Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings here today on the program. The last night of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party convention. Kamala will take the nomination that was gifted to her. She didn't earn it. She didn't earn a single vote. She'll get it tonight. And we will watch then what happens next. Now, here's what we need to know. Since the day I started this show, people have asked, how are they going to do it again? How are they going to pull off another cheat like they did in 2020 and so forth? Well, today the answer is revealed to you. I've been talking about it really for the last 4 years, since the day I started this program. Today, a look at how the Democratic Party, this communist-socialist movement of terror, will begin to try to redistribute votes within this republic. All of that plus constitutional attorney KrisAnne Hall will join me. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain of the United States of America, the republic for which we all stand and that you and I are trying to recover from the grip of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And they will draw to a conclusion tonight their convention of terror, their convention of death and so forth that is happening in Chicago. Abortion trucks set up out in the parking lot. You know, when we had the RNC convention up in Milwaukee, we had food trucks. They have abortion trucks, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't surprise any one of us. The words joy and happiness thrown around and co-opted when they mean absolutely nothing, because when you look at the actions of these people, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, the entire Communist Socialist Party, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, none of them belong to what was once known the Democrat Party. It is now a conglomeration of communism, socialism, fascism, Marxism, all of the isms. Throw them all in there. I call it the Communist Socialist Party. That's who they are. And they will nominate Kamala Harris to become president of the United States, one of the most unqualified people in the history of our government to be so nominated, and one of the most radical liberal of all American politicians to be nominated as such. It does us well to recognize that there have been very little to no discussions during this convention about policy, whether it's from the stage of guests, of speakers, or whether it's from Walz or Harris themselves. Nothing, very little about policy. This is a non-transparent, it's opaque, this campaign. We can't see into it. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it comprises, really. So all we have left to do is look at the actions that these two people have set forth in their terms in government. In Governor Walz's case, obviously allowing entire cities to burn down within his state of Minnesota, and within the realm of what Kamala Harris has done, we have a lot to look back on. In fact, everything that Biden has done is now the responsibility of Kamala Harris. She and Tim Walz are joined together in terror, because those nights in 2021 when Governor Walz was letting Minneapolis and other cities burned down to the ground in Minnesota, Kamala Harris was busy setting up funding mechanisms so that the anarchists who are doing the burning, the rioting, the looting, the murdering, and the raping could be bailed out if by chance radical district attorneys or police forces were allowed to arrest them. So Kamala had it covered. In case they were, she would provide the bailout money. So it's a match made in hell, no doubt about it. The ticket of terror, joy and happiness are words that they throw around, but I'm telling you, and I'm challenging you, look at the actions. Where have they brought about joy and happiness? Are you kidding me? What they believe in is chaos and crisis. There is not a policy that they've suggested, not an actual point put forth that does not bring about some level of chaos and crisis. From Governor Tim Walz, again, his inaction, 3 days in a row letting Minneapolis burn before he actually attempted to try to do anything about it. And you see, that's one of the pillars of the radical left. Allow chaos to fester and grow. If it happens organically, great, even better. But if chaos and crisis aren't in the mix, if they're not starting, create the perfect ingredients within your societal petri dish and throw it out and let it ignite and start chaos yourselves, either by action or inaction. He let Minnesota cities burn to the ground, Governor Walz did, and we won't forget it. There is no joy, there is no happiness in the actions of Governor Walz. Kamala Harris, again, in the off chance that police in Minnesota or other places were actually allowed to do their job, if the efforts of defunding the police hadn't already curtailed them enough from doing their jobs, if they were arrested, Kamala set forth efforts to get them out of jail quickly so that they can continue the rampage. And that's, again, another pillar of the radical left. You'll see it especially when they talk about gun violence. Gun criminals locked up, let out early, given light sentences to go out and create and commit other crimes. The only conclusion that you can draw, ladies and gentlemen, is that the radical left Democratic Party wants chaos, and they want crisis. It helps further their narrative. In the case of gun control, every time there's a gun violence crime, the talk of the Second Amendment being limited comes up. They think that if this happens enough, that people will finally give up and throw their hands up and say, okay, fine, let's put some restrictions on the Second Amendment. That's what they're hoping. And so they allow the chaos and the crisis to happen. In fact, they enable it and they advocate for it. If not by their words, by their silence. One of the questions that has always come up since the day I started the show with you now is rooted back in 2020 in the days of the election integrity and, you know, the talk of a stolen presidential election and so forth. The question is, well, how are they going to do it again, Doug? How are they going to cheat? Because you know that that's their nature, to cheat. How are they going to do it in 2024? And I've said, again, since the day I sat down here with you, start this program 4 years ago, January of 2020, I began to talk about the open border policy of Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris. And I was telling you, and I have told you several times over these years, that they would do something that's not obvious and that it takes some time to fully develop. It wouldn't be mail-in ballots. It wouldn't be drop boxes of ballots. They might still continue to try to do that, but this new effort will be bigger, and it'll take longer to develop. Looking back with the gift of hindsight, that theft of the American presidential election that we had in 2020 seemed like it happened overnight, didn't it? Happened like, wow, all of a sudden we woke up and Trump didn't win. When we were going to bed, Trump was way ahead, and all of a sudden now he's not, and we lost. And how did that happen so quickly? The radical left Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has begun their takeover of this republic 127, 128 years ago, back in 1897. And that's not a number I'm just grabbing out of thin air here, folks. 3 very wealthy, self-avowed socialists, John Rockefeller, John Dewey, Andrew Carnegie, collaborated with one another to combine their wealth and form foundations that would award money to educational institutions in America, as long as those educational institutions adopted their socialism and amend their curriculums to reflect socialism. The perspective of socialism and communism must be adopted within your curriculums in order for you to get our money. And from that point on, the takeover of our American educational institutions started. And since then, the radical liberals, the people who are on their side, people like you and me, but who are radicalized, liberal, they began to organize themselves to get involved in their local levels of government. These citizens became activists in their local neighborhoods, in their communities, in the counties in which they live, within the states in which they live. And they grew in number, and they took over schools, school boards, county commissions, state and local government, state Congress, state Senate, etc., newspapers, even now the entertainment industry. And it's fairly solidified over there on the left. You have the elected class, Democrats, communist socialists. You have the celebrity class. There are still plenty of conservative celebrities, but they don't dare speak out because the radical left liberal mob will cancel their careers. And then you have the print and the media, legacy news and TV and printed news agencies who are all captive now to the radical left agenda. We conservatives, if we're honest with ourselves, did not do such a good job as they did. We didn't get involved in the local level. And so now here we are. And it seems then to us as if 2020 just happened overnight. How did that happen? How did we lose grip on the republic like this? Well, it's been going on, as I said, for 127, 128 years. But what about going forward? Many of us on the conservative side are aware. We know, we're awake now. We know the nefarious plans of the radical left liberal movement in this country. We can see with our own eyes the purposeful chaos that they start and develop, whether it's the border, whether it's illicit drugs coming into this country, whether it's the lack of energy independence, foreign policy, giving equipment to enemies. We can go on and on and on. But what about polling places? What about election offices in our states? In many ways, we're fighting back against what we saw in 2020. We are more active now, and we are involved at polling places and election headquarters. We are volunteers, and we are paid polling observers and officials now, and we're going to keep an eye on that part of the potential cheat. We understand that part. But there are other ways. There are other ways that they're doing it, and in so many ways, we are fighting back and regaining the high ground in this fight. The battle to recover our republic from the radical left, taking the high ground of all issues. And we want to do nothing more than transform our republic back to the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. That's what the radical left wants to do, take us away from that. But let me answer the specific question. How will they cheat this time? A question that has been asked by many of you. And when we come back, I will give you the answer, and I'll show you evidence in video of what I mean and what I'm talking about. I do want to remind you, though, to head over to DougBillings.us. Please, ladies and gentlemen, DougBillings.us. Click on the website over there, and please prayerfully consider setting up a monthly recurring donation so that I can continue to bring you this program. I never charge you for this show. So just prayerfully decide what the truth and what this analysis means to you, and offer that recurring monthly donation over at DougBillings.us. All right. How will they cheat again? Coming up when I come back right after this break. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you could change the trajectory of your aging process? Look and feel better, live younger, be more active, less pain when you move around, sleep better, diminish the lines and the wrinkles on your face? Really? This is what I'm telling you. It's possible. You see, low stem cell activity happens when we get older, and it could be causing many of the health problems that some people have in the world today. Because as we get older, we have less stem cell activity, which means we age faster and we heal slower. The secret is a clinically proven and patented phototherapy non-transdermal patch, whose technology is the result of over 90 clinical studies and over 20 years of research. Your healthier life can begin today, and you can discover true age reversal. Age reversal, ladies and gentlemen. Please go to liveyoungerwithdoug.us. liveyoungerwithdoug.us, ladies and gentlemen. Get over there today. Or if you'd like, text my name, Doug, to 41372. Doug, text it, 41372. And get over to liveyoungerwithdoug.us. Get younger, feel younger. I'm doing it. I'm wearing this patch. I feel great. And so will you. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we meet in determined prayer and determined patriotism.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Standing shoulder to shoulder with you. I am honored to be with you and have been for the last 4 years. We appreciate you very much being here. The cheat. How are they going to do it? What is the process by which the radical left liberal mob is attempting to affect future elections? Because we know it's in their nature to do so. And the question has been asked, to me at least, dozens of times over the last few years. How do you think they're going to do it again, Doug? What is the way they're going to cheat? So let me, before I give you the specific answer, let me show you a video clip that will give you pieces of it. And again, by virtue of what the radical left is doing, that's why I always encourage you, look at the actions of these people. Forget the words joy and happiness. Look at what they actually do, and we'll begin to quickly understand how joy and happiness have nothing to do with the equations of the words that they are uttering. Let's, Logan, play clip number 1, please.
A taxpayer-funded group is offering $30,000 to new home buyers. Lauren, you cannot apply if you're an American citizen. What's with that?
Why would an American citizen apply for a taxpayer-funded program to get $30,000 for a new home? I mean, it's wild. The group is called Hacienda Community Development Corporation. They offer payment assistance in Oregon to DACA recipients, asylees, green card holders, basically any non-U.S. citizen. This is state-sponsored discrimination, Stuart. That's what it is. I mean, it's crazy. That's their goal. They want to open up housing and the American dream to non-U.S. citizens.
Okay, I guess that's the reason why that's why we have an open border, because eventually these folks will vote and vote Democrat because they're the people who let them in. That's what this is about.
Part of me wants to say crazy things happen in Oregon, but I think this will go far beyond Oregon. There is a critical shortage of houses across the United States, particularly in Oregon, and then they're giving $30K to non-taxpayers.
Yeah, which will raise the price of houses.
For everybody else.
Pathetic. All right.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, I have been telling you this since day one. January, back in 2021, when I started this program, the key to their cheat is open borders. And this is how it is going to be done, and how it is being done. It's impossible to understate the nefarious nature of all of this. It won't be drastic. It won't happen overnight, bit by bit, dribble by dribble, and now you just saw it. Funding using our taxpayer money to set up programs that only illegal immigrants are eligible to apply for, to get $30,000 in home loans, grants, free money to get a home. Their new cheating scheme is just that. It's a new electoral base for their entire radical left-leaning liberal movement. I'm with 100% certainty, I can tell you the reason that they've opened the borders for unfettered access into our country is to create that new electoral base of voters for the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. First, we got to get them into the country. That's task number one. Second, give them state IDs. Let them be able to vote. Third, get taxpayers to subsidize housing for which only illegals can apply. Fourth, then provide everything to them for free. Free education, free food, free health care, free money, free housing. And this is the cheating that they have now employed. It's a long game. It's not going to be an overnight. This is a long game cheat in progress right now. And I know that other people have watched this show, Talking Heads. They're taking the idea, they're running with it. I was the first back in January of 2021. Not only will this new electoral base be created, that's their goal, but there's also residual effects that they're going to be happy about on the radical left side of the aisle as well. The radical liberals will also accomplish one of their other primary goals, and that is to dilute the American identity. That would then continue the work that a Barack Obama actually set about first and said out loud first of fundamentally transforming America. Remember those words? And let me be clear. No citizen within this republic can be an American patriot and support that party and that movement, precisely because, if nothing else, of that point, fundamentally transforming America. I want to be clear. The platform of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is all about fundamentally transforming America. And what that means to them is the plan that Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Dewey set in motion 128 years ago to fundamentally transform America into a socialist communist blend of tyranny and loss of liberty. And it wasn't until Barack Obama showed up and he said the words out loud, fundamentally transform America. That's what we're here to do. Prior to him, it was said in back rooms and libraries in the, amongst the elite with cigars and scotch. But now it's said out loud and in public, and it's in full swing. They are flying it's like I say, kamikaze mode, flying their ships of transformation into the deck of America, igniting us, sometimes quite literally on fire, to transform us away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. So I'm here to tell you these 3 or 4 things boldly and clearly. Number 1, America was divinely inspired by God. Our founding documents inspired by God and written by men. Point number 1. Point number 2, as such, America is in no need to be fundamentally transformed. Thank you very much. Point 3, it's impossible to be an American patriot and to believe in the platform and the policies and the politics of this communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. You cannot be an American patriot and believe in the platform that you're seeing on television this week coming from Chicago. No American patriot believes that America needs to be fundamentally transformed. It's something, it is a soapbox that I have had for years, and we have got to begin to speak about this. And they go about changing and transforming America through the vehicles of chaos and crisis. We, on the right side, have, I'll use this analogy. We have patron saints, right? Holy men and women who have lived throughout the ages, who've lived clean, good, decent, moral lives, and we look to for inspiration. They, since they've already excommunicated God away and out of their party platform, they literally have done that. It's not just me trying to make a point. They've excommunicated God out of their party platform. They believe that chaos and crisis, that's their patron demons over there. And if there is not chaos or crisis that just begins organically from some event, they will create events that will fester the beginnings of chaos and crisis. Look what they did in Minnesota under the watch of Governor Walz. George Floyd was just the fuse that ignited this chaos and crisis, and they put it to good use. And Governor Tim Walz let Minneapolis specifically, burn for 3 days before he took action. Oh, but Doug, President Trump, praised Walz for doing such a great job. He did because Walz made a phone call. He said, hey, I'm taking some heat up here in Minnesota. Can you give me some cover, Mr. President? And, talk a little bit about how I'm trying to quell this was after 3 days. And Trump, because he's a nice guy, says, sure, Tim, I'll try to give you some cover. So he, once Governor Walz finally, after 3 days, calls in the National Guard to try to quell the violence, Trump gives him praise for that. But it was a favor. So don't be fooled. See, they cannot get anywhere near the complete and whole truth. With them, it's lies. At the best, it's a mixture of lies with truth in order to try to confuse you. But the words joy and happiness, that's laughable. They have absolutely nothing to do with those two words. Everything about them, from the destruction of the American Republic as intended by God and the Founding Fathers, to the way that we can try to find joy, wonder, and meaning in this life. Look at it and think about it. And again, I use this example that I'm going to mention again because it is a powerful and all at the same time an abhorrent example of what the radical left stands for with regards to joy and happiness and finding wonder, joy, and meaning in this life, with regards to the fiction of gender misappropriation. There is no such thing, ladies and gentlemen, as gender misappropriation. God takes care of that perfectly at conception. It is all done perfectly. Now, the fiction of gender misappropriation is a mental illness. Yet the radical left movement in this country will not only promote but advocate for children who believe in this myth because they've been raised by generations of wussified parents who don't have any idea of what moral high ground or morality in general really is, to think that they can find and be happy if they were just allowed to change genders. And so therefore and thereby the radical left steps in and says, yes, Johnny, little Sarah, up in Minnesota, you feel as if you've been gender misappropriated. Well, you can find wonder, joy, and meaning and happiness in life if you'd just let us mutilate your genitalia. Then you'll be happy. Take it from us. And I know that that's gruesome, and I say it on several shows because it needs to be, that drum needs to be beaten. We need to get that. That's what they stand for. And so no Christian can stand for that. No person of faith can stand for that. And within this party, that chaos, the platform that they drive and strive for, purposeful chaos, whether we talk about the border and what it has meant, whether fentanyl and other illicit drugs coming into this country, whether it's the lack of energy independence, whether it's war in Ukraine and the rising of China to displace us from the world global markets, whether it's the debacle in Afghanistan where we purposefully allowed the Taliban to become better armed over there than most of our allies. All of this chaos, and there is more, all of it, personal choice, the culture of death. You know, I said at the beginning of the program, we had at the RNC, we had food trucks in our parking lot up in Milwaukee. This week, so far, 50 human babies have been aborted at an abortion truck that the radical left communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has had up there in the parking lot this entire week. Now, if that doesn't fully illustrate what we're up against, I don't know what does. And so we have this all to deal with. And I want to talk, we have KrisAnne Hall coming up, one of my favorite people in the world. She a brilliant constitutional attorney. We were going to have a chat with her about things that have to do with founding fathers, their intent, the Constitution. I think it's going to be an awesome discussion and a conversation. She's coming right up, but I do have to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. And just a quick reminder about DougBillings.us. Please do consider heading over there and supporting us, setting up a monthly reoccurring donation over there, DougBillings.us. It's how I bring you the show for free every day, Monday through Friday, right here. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, and KrisAnne Hall will join me. Stay with me. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. The Right Side with Doug Billings. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, you are every day you honor me by allowing me to speak with you and to try to join with you, stand shoulder to shoulder to save the republic against this trend that we see, the radical liberal, as I call them, the commune socialist movement. Look, in the elected class, no more Democrats, folks. They have blended communism, socialism. Heck, you could throw in fascism, Marxism, all of the isms. Throw them. That's what they're blended to be. And the commune socialist movement is not a pro-America movement, not in my opinion. And I think evidence of the obvious, right? That you can see it everywhere you look. So I'm very grateful also to have been able to meet people like my next guest, KrisAnne Hall. She's been on my show before. It's been a while. It's been way too long. She is an author. She's a speaker, a constitutional attorney, a filmmaker. She's also the host of the KrisAnne Hall Show and the founder of Liberty First Society. You can find all about her, everything you want to know about KrisAnne Hall over at KrisAnneHall.com. KrisAnne, welcome back to The Right Side.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be back.
Oh my gosh, it's been too long. Long ago when I first started this thing, you blessed me by coming on the program and just thought you were the best ever since. So I've been following you from afar and watching you ever since. And I appreciate what you're doing for the Republic.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So as we look at the landscape and the state of play, KrisAnne, from a constitutional attorney's point of view, I get enough emails to make me wonder about this, and I don't pretend for a moment that our government is going to actually do much about it. But this whole thing about Kamala Harris and her eligibility, constitutional eligibility. Do you get questions about this? Her mom and dad not active, not United States citizens at the time she was born, and so therefore constitutionally there seems to be a hiccup, if you will, in her eligibility to become president. Is that true?
Well, remember, she already ran for president once, and I actually got kicked off permanently off YouTube for posting a video on this. But I have since then reposted a video on my X and on my Instagram and on my Facebook, in which I created an allegory, and I called it Uncle Sam and the Dromedary. A tale about this man named Uncle Sam who had a flock of camels, and he was trying to determine who he was going to choose to represent his camels. And then we went through the rules of who is eligible to represent the camels in Uncle Sam's camel dromedary herd, and we discussed all of these things in the matter of allegory. And I didn't tell you, I have had so many people, even young people, because the kids like the little cartoons that I used and everything, that said that it was very, very easy to understand. So with your permission, I will go ahead and explain this, but I do want to warn you that if we talk about this, there are platforms, just out there, there are platforms that will take you down.
Okay. Yep. You have my blessing. Let's go for it. Let's talk about it.
All right. Well, the Constitution makes it very clear that a person to be eligible to be a president, must be a natural-born citizen. And that's more than just a hiccup, because when you understand why that was a condition and how the presidents were chosen at first when no one was a natural-born citizen, because the union had just started, then you understand why it's actually important. So a natural-born citizen is someone who is born, and this is not something that we're making up. This was actually the standard of the law at the time. The natural-born citizen is one who is born of parents who are both citizens at the time of birth. And people say, well, why didn't they define that? Well, guess what? They didn't define person either. There are many words that are not defined in the Constitution because our founders believed that they were legally established in definition by culture, by standard over time. And if they actually put in a definition section into the Constitution, the Constitution would have been too voluminous to actually be effective. So they took for granted there were some terms that would be automatically understood. They didn't understand that we would become progressively more ignorant as we were deliberately dumbed down in our education system. So a natural-born citizen was defined at the time as someone who is the child of both parents who are citizens. Now, why is that important? Now, we can discern why that's important when you understand how a president was chosen and the first presidents that were chosen when no one was a natural-born citizen. The first criteria was that a president must be someone who actively supported and actively participated in the independence movement. Now, that was very, very important because not all the loyalists left the country. And they knew that no matter what happened, culturally, there would still be people who were loyalists to the king, to the crown, who wanted to go back to being subjects. And what would happen is they would work themselves up through the ranks, and then they would become president and then make treaties and make agreements and make alliances with Great Britain to literally put us back under subjection. So the criteria for the first presidents were you had to have actively participated, actively supported the independence movement, which means you had to have an unfailing loyalty to the Union. There is also a requirement that the president and the vice president cannot be from the same state. Now, if we're totally honest about this natural-born citizen issue, Kamala is not even eligible to be vice president because the Constitution requires that the vice president must be under the same qualifications as the president of the United States. Because remember, the vice president's role is to replace the president if something should happen to the president. And so since the president's qualification is a natural-born citizen, Kamala can't even do that either, be vice president. So the vice president and the president are required to be from two different states, which also gives us an indication of the natural-born citizen requirement. We can't have a president that has an unequal loyalty, a vice president, and vice president has an unequal loyalty within the Union. So why is having a president who is not a natural-born citizen a real problem? Well, let's say this. Let's take, for example, a person who wants to run for president whose father is a U.S. citizen, but whose mother is Canadian, but the person running for president has dual citizenship, but is not a natural-born citizen because the person's Canadian mother never became a citizen of the United States. Why is that a problem? Well, remember, the President of the United States has very limited and specific powers. The President of the United States is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces when there is a declaration of war by Congress. The President of the United States is the one who negotiates treaties with foreign countries. So let's say America, for one reason or another, has to go to war with Canada. But our president has a mother who is Canadian and was brought up to respect Canada and even has kind of a fiduciary love, a family love for Canada because his mother loved Canada. She never relinquished her citizenship. That broken loyalty to the United States would create a problem with the president exercising his duties. Could a president whose mother is Canadian actually carry out the duties of a commander-in-chief in Canada? Well, what if your different scenario, your mother is Jamaican, or your father is Jamaican, your mother is Indian, nobody's a citizen? Maybe now you have to be involved in making treaties as a president. Well, what makes you choose the protection and the prosperity of America over your mother's country or over your father's country? Why wouldn't you choose to make treaties with those two foreign countries that would benefit them and maybe detriment America itself? The other thing, which is a legal application that applies to Kamala, is that when someone is born to Jamaican parents, whether it be one or two, under Jamaican law, that child automatically has dual citizenship. If you have dual citizenship, you cannot be a natural-born citizen, because a natural-born citizen only has one citizenship, and that's in America.
So that's wow. And that's what I had gleaned from what I've been seeing. What clearly I do not see the court system in the United States of America backing any of that up. I mean, obviously not. I don't think they have the stomach for it, KrisAnne.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think so, because they don't really like to make these kind of political questions. But the real issue is the Republican Party wouldn't challenge it, because the Republican Party is just as guilty as the Democrat Party. We have the Republican Party offering up Ted Cruz to be president of the United States, who is not a natural-born citizen. We have the Republican Party offering up Marco Rubio to be president, who is not a natural-born citizen. And I know that if you're speaking that to Republicans, to conservatives, that really evokes a lot of emotions. But I'm a constitutionalist, so there's no emotion attached to me on this. And
Principle
even
over
in
party.
this, yeah, I am liberty over security, principle over party, and truth over personality. That's just who I am. And I'm going to call it by holding both parties and all people to the only standard that matters, and that's the Constitution. So when you have the Republican Party, I mean, just even as recent as this election, people were throwing up Marco Rubio to be vice president to Donald Trump in 2024. Now, Marco Rubio couldn't be vice president to Donald Trump, not only because he's not a natural-born citizen, because they're both from Florida. The Constitution prohibits that. So what you have is a situation where the Republicans are just as guilty as the Democrats. So it's not going to get challenged.
Right. Yeah, that is, I believe you. Now, and it leads to a whole nother set of questions, but I know that your time is limited. We've got a few minutes left here. With regards to, okay, good. So I talk a great deal about the border crisis and how it is, for me, the pinnacle example of how this radical left movement, and I agree with you, by the way, KrisAnne, that the Democrats and the Republicans share a lot of guilt when we look at the state of play in America. It's not just always us versus them. It's the establishment on both sides. But with regards to immigration and this particular issue that we're talking about, millions of illegal immigrants coming into this country, and many of them, let's just be honest, many of them are going to have babies over here, and those babies, if I'm not mistaken, become American citizens, and that's, in my view, that's just a problem. It's illegal. It's got to be stopped. Do you think that this could not have been the intent of the founding fathers?
No, our founders did not intend for babies being born here to be automatically citizens. I mean, in no other country on the planet is that even the standard. So you don't get to take a vacation to Disney, pop out a baby, and now all of a sudden you have an American. That by every other standard on the planet, that doesn't work. And it only works when you have a system of people in government, in politics, that are fundamentally, universally ignorant about the Constitution and even about what citizenship, not only the definition of citizenship, but what that actually means. And so until we really, really fix the educational deficit in America regarding the Constitution, what it means, and how it is to be applied, I really don't think that we're going to make a lot of progress on these finer aspects. We have people who are fiercely patriotic and in all right should be and are by all definitions. And yet we have an education system that has failed to teach accurate understanding, accurate truth about the Constitution since 1830. So unless you've actually taken it upon yourself to read the documents that the founders themselves wrote, to actually understand the concepts of contract law, to understand how that all plays together and what kind of document our constitutions really are, which is an understanding, not to give like a gratuitous plug here, but we actually walk people through all that at libertyfirstsociety.com in a way that even sixth graders walk away going, wow, I get this, right? So what we are able to do at libertyfirstsociety.com is to take these things that look like otherwise complex issues and bottom shelf them. Because in reality, it's only the academic elite that wants you to believe that the Constitution is too complicated and you're too stupid to understand it. But we need people who are going to teach how simple it is and then teach it in its simplicity.
And can you get to that link that you just described from KrisAnneHall.com? I want to make sure people know where to find you. And
yes.
Okay.
So KrisAnneHall.com, or if you just want to go to the website, it's libertyfirstsociety.com, and it's first as the word, not a number.
Good. All right. Well, and you're busy because I know you speak 250 or so dates a year, and you're out there helping to do that. I'm honored to that's a mission that we need, and we in some small way we hope on this program that we can do it as well. And so, KrisAnne, as you look over the landscape of America, and when you put on your constitutional attorney robe, and you're looking at what might really keep KrisAnne Hall awake at night with regards to the Constitution and how it may be misapplied or misinterpreted or whatever, what would you say is the most critical thing that Americans should be focusing on in terms of the Constitution?
Well, I just want to put it out there. I know centuries of history which details human nature that gives me an insight on where we've been and where we're going. And I can tell you, no matter how bleak it looks, no matter how discouraging it may seem, I'll just be totally honest. I don't lay awake at night worrying about this, because I understand that through Jesus Christ, I've already won. I'm more than a conqueror. The battle has been won. It's just my job to not grow weary in the fight, to be a speaker of the truth, to be a deliverer of the gospel message, whatever that truth may be, even in the truth in Christ. Because I know through Christ, regardless of what the government does, I have liberty. It is where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. The Spirit of the Lord is in me. And so the government can't take anything away from me, because they can't take what Christ has put in me. And he did it all at the cross. So we'll just leave that out there. But I can tell you that we have got to stop the political blame game. And let me give you an example. I live in Hillsborough County, Florida. Hillsborough County is one of the largest counties in Florida, probably one of the largest counties in the United States. 288,500 plus registered Republican voters. That's just registered Republican voters, 288,000 plus. If you round it up, 289,000, right? In our primary, which we just had on Tuesday in Hillsborough County, 25,000 Republicans voted. That's less than 10%. So when you have less than 10% of a registered, I'm not talking about the whole population. I'm not even talking about people who aren't registered. If you have less than 10% of the people who are actually registered voting in a primary, we have to understand the problem doesn't rest in the White House. The problem does not rest in Congress. The problem does not rest in the Department of Justice or even the Federal Reserve. The problem rests in the population. And the problem is the primaries are the only place where voters actually have choices. But it's not as sexy as a general election where you get to go vote for the president, right? So people don't go vote. They just want, they want the glamorous, they want the sexy thing. But the primary is where you actually choose. By the time you get to the general election, you've got no choice. You're choosing the lesser of two evils. For example, here in Hillsborough County, several of our state and local positions had 4 Republicans each to choose from. You never get to a general election where you get 4 people to choose from. And so this is our problem. Too many people have been taught that voting is the only way that we control government. So then they don't vote because they think there's too much voter fraud. But look at these numbers. 289,000 people are registered to vote and only 25,000 voted. Do you know what that means? That means that there are 254,000 registered votes out there to be taken by fraud. They don't have to make up the roll. They can just show out and they have 265,000 uncasted ballots that can be casted fraudulently. Where if 225,000 people showed up to vote, you would only have 64,000 that could be actually fraudulent. So showing up to vote actually eliminates the possibility of fraudulent votes. It makes it harder to carry out. It makes it harder to hide. Now, voting is not going to save America, but how we vote and when we vote is an indication of who we are. You see, it's an indication of morality. It is an indication of vigilance. And the morality and the vigilance of the people, or the lack thereof, is how every society falls.
Amen, KrisAnne. Look, you are saying just exactly, I like the way you think, exactly. I say it this way, because I, like you, I run across people who just throw their hands up because of the frustration of election integrity issues and voter theft and presidential elections that were stolen. And they say, I'm not going to vote. It doesn't make any. And my reminder to them is that, look, first of all, we have a duty. We have a moral obligation to participate in the rights that God has given us. And we do not honor God if we sit out. If we surrender the rights He's given us, we're not honoring God. And additionally, we're not honoring the men and women in the military who have gone to the battlefield to defend our rights that come to us from God.
Right.
So don't sit out. We've got to get out there and vote. And I think you're right. The local level, forget Washington, D.C. Right. Your local county and where you live is where you need to begin if you want to affect change in this republic.
Yeah, your local votes and your local offices are the most powerful offices in your life. You can't control the president, but you can control your county commissioner. And that's really the power of the people. Voting is not how you control government. It's what you do every other day of every other year, your involvement, right? Involvement is the key. You elect based on your morality. You are vigilant based on your involvement. An absent immoral constituency will always get a totalitarian government to fill that void. If you don't control government, if you don't make choices, you will get a government that controls you and makes the choices for you. So there's really no mystery that you have an entire utter tyrannical communist movement moving through America because the people have checked out. They become so frustrated they've checked out. And I believe that's by design, right? Because you have voter fraud. You combine that with the messaging of voter fraud, right? Voter fraud plus the messaging of voter fraud, my vote doesn't count, always puts the Democrats and the establishment controlling Republicans into power. You'll always get that. You'll never get anybody who is other than the establishment from both parties when people don't vote. So the next thing you know is you have a totalitarian regime. I think another thing we need to understand is there is not two parties. There's only one party. And unless we vote, we will always get one party. And the Democrat and the Republican establishment are the exact same party. They both love big government. They both love totalitarian rule. And they are both more than willing to trade in Washington, D.C., to trade off power in Washington, D.C., because they know if the Democrats have it for 2 years, then the Republicans can have it for 2 years. And each time they work their own constituency to grow government bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and hand power over to the next regime.
Well said, KrisAnne. Well said and well met. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll never find a better constitutional attorney and someone who can put the complicated into simple terms that I need to understand these dynamics that are going on. KrisAnneHall.com. Ladies and gentlemen, please do head over there and check her out. A lot of information for you, educational series and materials to check out. KrisAnne Hall. Spelled, by the way, you spell Anne the right way. Thank you very much. The way my mom was named Anne. And
you should thank my grandmother. She did that, not me.
My mom always said, with an E, make sure you got the E. That's the way to spell it. So anyway, KrisAnne, I'm honored. Thank you very much for spending some time with us on this Thursday evening, and God bless you and all of your work, your husband as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for what you're doing and the vigilance and the morality that you bring by example to the people. It's an encouragement.
Thank you, KrisAnne. God bless you.
God bless you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, KrisAnne Hall, please do consider heading over to her website, KrisAnneHall.com. Just a wonderful Christian lady, and her husband doing great work throughout the Republic, trying to help us recover from this grip of liberalism and the communist socialist movement within America that we see so much these days. Tonight, the last night of the convention, the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party convention in Chicago, and tomorrow, a big day. We're going to probably talk a little bit about this tomorrow. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bobby Kennedy Jr., set to endorse President Trump to suspend his campaign precisely because of what the Democrat Communist Socialist Party has done to him and his campaign, using lawfare to kneecap him, to take him out off the ballots in all states. The Democrats have only themselves to blame for this. That's why you're going to see Bobby Kennedy endorse Trump tomorrow, Friday in Arizona. They both are in Arizona. Bobby Kennedy will be in Phoenix, and President Trump will be in Glendale. That's only a 20-minute drive apart, and it would be nice and interesting if we see them together making a joint statement. We'll see if that happens, but we'll look for Kennedy to endorse Trump, and then Kennedy to be given some position within the Trump administration. And I'm looking at the tea leaves here, and I'm believing that he will probably be something that has to do with health and human services, countermeasuring the bad and incorrect and often just outright lying that Dr. Anthony Fauci gave Trump during that first term. So watch for all of that. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Please head over to DougBillings.us. Go over there, prayerfully consider setting up a monthly reoccurring donation, DougBillings.us, and watch the show live. And please subscribe wherever you're watching it, on X, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, wherever. Like it, subscribe, and please share so that we can begin to recapture and share the message of the American Republic as intended by God and the Founding Fathers. I'll see you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
Welcome to Technocracy News with your host, Patrick Wood. How are you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. We're kind of going back to something we talked about on Tuesday with the discoveries by the people who are looking into the COVID shots and the 2-year study with this article today is called Under the Skin, the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. We have the Internet of Things, and now we're looking at the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. What is this, Patrick?
Well, I'll tell you what. Okay, we started out years ago with the Internet of Things. I talked about that extensively, going back 8-9 years ago, where everything is being connected, all the sensors in society, whatever, are being connected by 5G and 4G. That's all behind us at this point. So then we see there's the Internet of Bodies, which means skin type of connecting things over the skin, like smart watches and sensors like that are on the outside of your body. Then we got to the Internet of Everything, basically. It's kind of, all the other things that could be connected. But now we have a new thing called the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. That's IOBNT. You just can't make this stuff up. Now we're going under the skin in a very invasive manner, I have to say. But we see this now delivered with the COVID shots. Not all of them, but some of them, Pfizer and Moderna especially. You might remember that Moderna famously said a few years ago that mRNA basically is the software of life. And if we can manipulate that, why, we could change everything with one line of code. Okay, well, they took that off the website pretty quickly because people really freaked out, right? But it was there, and you can go back and look in the archive, Internet Archive, you'll find it. But now we now know exactly what they're doing with this so-called Internet of Bio-Nano Things. These are the things that go into your blood, and they can do certain things, pre-program things to change things in your body and deliver drugs to certain regions of your body, and also just harvest information from your body. It can, and the idea here is that the biochemical reactions that we all have in our body, that we're a chemical machine, first off, but they've figured out how to translate the chemical signaling into electric signals that can be picked up by the internet. So this is a revolutionary thought now that biological functions can be harvested for data. That means your body potentially could be a gold mine to people if they can get enough of the data from a lot of people of the world, like, for instance, about 73% of the world perhaps could be harvested for data. This is the new frontier, honestly. And so anyway, I had this thought when I ran across this paper that people need to understand what this is talking about. And this article came basically from a few years ago, from March 2015, actually. But it was an excellent article explaining this whole concept of the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. So I have one video at the top of this, by the way. We probably just show this as like 2 minutes. We should maybe take the whole thing at this point.
Okay.
It'll explain what I'm talking about here.
All right, here we go.
The ongoing projects also include biologically engineered communication systems. This work grounds on multidisciplinarity with the ultimate goal to understand the interaction among biological cells